and what it means to me, when, to be honest, although my heart went out to the people who suffered at the hands of the perpetrators of the slave trade, and I hated the ignorance and greed that was at the root of it all, the truth is that, rightly or wrongly, I feel removed from it all. That might seem strange to someone whose background is English, because educators, social workers, politicians and the like are always banging on about going back to our roots. To be honest, I don't know what they're talking about. I don't need to go back to my roots in Africa to validate myself. I'm mixed race for a start. I have roots in many different places, as do most of the population in today's society, I should imagine. That's another thing. It's strange to me that only people with brown skin are deemed as being mixed race. To misquote Steve Martin slightly from the film The Jerk, I was born a poor white kid. I was born in Barry, South Wales. It has recently become well known because of the sitcom Gavin and Stacey. In the show, it's obvious the love Stacey feels for her hometown, and I don't know if it's because it's my birthplace or what, but Barry really is a very special place, full of wonderful, gregarious, kind, all-embracing people.
Well, I'm his manager.
The magical people of Barry.
My grandmother was a white woman. She had an affair with an African man who was lodging in her house. I'm guessing that he was in the services. Anyway, 9 months later, my mother was born. In the circumstances, my grandmother, Gertrude, couldn't really hide the affair from her husband and pass the child off as his. Not that she would have done that. He was wonderful about it. He forgave her and said that he would bring the child up as his own and would never, ever mention it again. Imagine that. The family that my mother was born into was all white. She told me that she was never made to feel out of place or different. In fact, she was made to feel more special, if anything. Growing up, I had lots of friends. Nobody called me any names, and as far as I'm aware, I wasn't treated any differently to anyone else. My grandmother and my parents were well respected in the community. My father played cricket every Sunday. I have wonderful memories of my father dressed in his whites and the gorgeous smell of the linseed oil which my mum would rub into his cricket bat whilst my dad made his cricket shoes sparkling white. My mother served in the army. She was a talented pianist who played for the Barry Male Voice Choir, and she was a wonderful seamstress. They were best friends with the Lord and Lady Mayoress of Barry. Darwin was the first Muslim mayor, and they were the first black mayor and mayoress in Britain. But to me, growing up, they were just Uncle Darwin and Auntie Gwen.
I had the support of the Labour Party here. I did do his running around to canvass people, you know.
My two sisters and I went to Sunday school every Sunday, dressed in our Sunday best, wearing dresses that my mother had made, cute bonnets and little white gloves. As I said earlier, I am mixed race. Who am I supposed to identify with? The strange thing is that I probably have slavers as well as slaves as my ancestors. But I didn't feel any different to anybody else growing up. Or it is probably more honest to say that I never felt hated when I was growing up. I never grew up with a chip on my shoulder because I had been subjected to racial abuse. I never experienced the pain and injustice of apartheid. I never felt the excruciating pain of the whip as it cut deep, leaving huge weals and gashes on my body. I never had to fear a knock on the door or fear the smell of a burning torch. And I thank God over and over again that my experience of having beautiful brown skin has been a positive thing. I know it has to do with the legacy left by all those brave people who lived and died and made sacrifices so that I and everyone else wouldn't feel any different growing up. Their sacrifice hasn't been in vain. We still have a long way to go, but we will get there. I know that we will, because my experience of living and being brought up in Barry amongst the unique and wonderful people who live there is proof of that. I was incredibly lucky to have been born there, and never doubted for 1 minute that anything was possible. And Barry proved to me that it is.